Welcome to But Enough About Me, a podcast about other people. My name is Tyler Andrews. I'm a Nashville-based photographer, husband, and father. I'm trying to collect the stories of everyone around me, whether we're best friends or total strangers. I want to know what made you the person you are today. I hope that didn't gross you out. That is my morning coffee because it has been a long weekend and I still have to record an intro and an outro to a podcast. Guys, I cannot wait for you to meet this gentleman. This is someone that, while I consider myself honored to know him, I'm even more honored that he speaks into my sons' lives. He is the scoutmaster for my boys' Boy Scout troop, where they're about to get their Eagle Scout ranks. I found out that this gentleman, my guest today, led at this particular troop, and even though it's quite a bit out of the way for where we live, my wife and I, insisted that these boys join that troop because I wanted them to learn from this gentleman. He's an attorney. He works with the state in child and family advocacy. He is also a pastor, so he has 2 full-time jobs that he does. And on top of that, he's a fitness advocate and major outdoor enthusiast. Guys, it is such an honor to introduce you to my good friend, Mr. Craig Hargrow. We're going now, and it looks like everything's working. So
Good deal.
yeah, we're gonna see what happens. Craig, I just want to hear your story.
Okay.
Who are your parents?
So my parents are Frank Hargrow and Virginia Hargrow. My mom transitioned I guess it's been 5 years now. It's in 2013. My dad's still living. He lives in Clarksville. I go see him, almost 4 or 3 times a month. I go every Thursday, hang out with him, just to check in on him and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old is he?
He is 83.
That's great.
Yeah, still living by himself, driving around. He pastors a church as well. Now, I tell him kind of in a backdoor way that maybe it's time to stop pastoring or slow down a little bit because you really can't do what you used to do.
Right.
But he's, retired military, Ranger, airborne infantry, and he does what he wants to do.
Right. Yeah, come stop me.
Yeah. And I'm still afraid of him, so so I just let him be.
Yeah.
My mom and dad met in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Dad was military. He was
Right.
stationed at Fort Campbell. Mom was born and pretty much raised in Clarksville. My mom taught for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
Dad being in the military, we bounced around, every 2 or 3 years we were moving. It's funny, my mom has always been, not always, started off, my mom was kind of like the spiritual leader of our household. She'd get us up and we'd go to church. My dad would watch football or, go fishing or whatever the case may be. But he, at about age 55, gave his life to God. And a couple of years after that, he was a deacon. A couple of years after that, he heard his calling. And then, so he's been pastoring, I want to say, almost 26 years now, because I preached his 25th year anniversary last year. And it was strange to have my dad, when he started, pastoring and going to church, because he's just always been, like I said before, he's, airborne infantry ranger. I mean, he was as hard as they come.
Right.
He went into the Marine Corps at age 16. They didn't find out that he was 16 when he joined until he was 18. His grandmother raised him. He wasn't raised by his mother. His grandmother raised him, and I don't know what was going on, but at some point she just was afraid something was going to happen to him, and so she called the Marines and said, Frank Hargrow, He joined when he was 16, and so they kicked him out, and he
What,
went.
they kicked him out at 18?
Yeah, he was already.
It was like damage is done. Come on now. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, and he said when they gave him an honorable discharge,
Oh, that's cool.
and he went straight from the office being discharged from the Marines to an Army recruiter and signed up and went into the Army.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that would have been, I'm just guessing now, is that 60s?
Let me see. He was born in 35.
So no, that would have been 40, 53.
Right around 53. 50,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So still in the tail end patriotism of World War II.
Right.
Not yet into the disillusionment of Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah. He did 3 tours in Vietnam. Unfortunately, fortunately, he came back with a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
But came back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time when you come back with a Purple Heart, you probably aren't going back over again, are you?
So my dad, man, like I said, he's tough as nails. And the first tour came back. He got injured the second. It's just an eardrum thing.
Just an eardrum.
Well,
Yeah.
he was driving someone and a mortar went off and flipped the Jeep and damaged his hearing. But so he went back.
You don't need 2 ears.
Yeah,
One's good enough.
that's right. That's right.
Man.
Yeah,
How old? I guess when did your folks meet? You said they met in Clarksville.
right.
Was that after his third tour?
I'm trying to remember. I think it must have been shortly, maybe after his second tour, because I remember talking with my dad at one time, just a long time ago, and he left. They were dating. They weren't married at the time, but I remember because he had this white Chrysler that he loved, that he absolutely loved. And he was telling me about his white Chrysler, and he said, and I left it with your mom when I went to Vietnam, and she took care of it. And he said the first thing I wanted to know when I got back was, how's my Chrysler?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it had been probably after, I think, his second tour.
Okay. All right. Does he still have it?
No,
Okay.
he's always been a kind of a car kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's maybe not so much now, but he's every 2 or 3 years he's getting a new car, whether he needs one or not. So I go see him every week, almost
Right.
every week. And one week, Cadillac is sitting in the driveway. I come back next week, there's a Jag in the driveway. So I go in, and we don't do any much. We watch TV, talk. And so about after an hour of me being there, I said, "Hey, Dad, what's up with the Jag in the driveway?" He was like, "Oh, yeah, I meant to tell you about that. I was driving down the road, and I drove past a dealer and saw a Jag." And so let me give you some of the backstory. My dad bought, I can't remember the year, but he bought a white Jag. He was stationed in England.
Oh.
He bought a white Jag in England and had
Okay.
it shipped back over.
Oh my gosh.
It has 2 gas tanks. It's got the gas tank
Yeah.
on. I mean, and so he's always loved Jags. And so anyway, so he saw the Jag one day. Didn't do anything, or saw the dealership one day and thought, that's pretty cool. He said, I got up the next morning and I was shaving, and I looked in the mirror and I said, "You look like a man that deserves another Jag." And so he thought about it one day. The next day, went out and bought it.
I like your dad. That's my kind of decision maker. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, where are you in the family tree? How many siblings do you have?
So I have an older sister
Okay.
who is 3 years older than me, and I have a younger brother who is 4 years younger than me. And so I'm the middle child.
So they spread it out.
Spread it out.
They
Yeah,
were-
yeah.
Were you born in Clarksville?
So I was born in Eglin Air Force Base, which is in Florida.
Okay.
My dad, and I never could quite figure all this out. So my dad was a instructor at the Ranger Academy. He was a reptile specialist and just kind of survival specialist. And so evidently the Ranger Academy or training, one of the places that you go to train to be a Ranger, is close to an Air Force base in Florida.
Okay.
And so when I came along, that was the nearest hospital. And so I was born on the Air Force base.
So your dad's a bad mamma jamma.
He's,
Like, you don't mess with reptiles in Florida. That's not skinks.
that's right.
That's alligators
Yeah.
and snakes.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, so he was in charge of a bunch of different things regarding reptiles, but he fed the alligators that they had in the training facility, and there was a huge alligator named Big John.
Okay.
And so my dad, not I was too young to remember this. He just told me about it. So they would take chickens and feed the alligators, and typically Big John was slow and nonchalant, not much going on with Big
Right.
John. And so my dad goes in to feed Big John, and for some reason Big John is not his typical slow and nonchalant self, and just kind of started coming toward him pretty quickly, but not as fast as alligators charge. I guess I don't know what that looks like, but it was obvious that something was different.
Purposeful advance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there was a lawnmower close to where my dad was, and he he looked and thought, if he comes at me, I can't make it back out. And so he takes the lawnmower and face up, and sure enough, as soon as he went for the lawnmower, Big John hit the 45, whatever, and my dad ended up cutting cutting some of Big John's teeth out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
And he survived?
Yeah, yeah, he
That's
survived.
incredible.
Yeah.
Those things are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize alligators are just dinosaurs that didn't die.
That didn't die.
They're crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I guess it's better that than another Purple Heart, though. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you were born in Florida.
Right.
At what point did you live? How long did you live there?
So it seemed like Florida was kind of our home base. After I was born, we stayed there for maybe 2 years. Went to Georgia, then we went back to Florida, went to England, where my younger brother was born. Stayed there for, as far as military goes, a substantial amount of time. In England for 4 years. We kind of bounced around while we were there, but then came back and was stationed in Florida again.
Wow.
As far as memories go, all I remember is Georgia, Florida, England, and we stayed in Spain for a little while when we were overseas in England, but because we just always came back to Florida.
Right.
Yeah. My sister was born in Florida, and so she was born in Florida. I was born in Florida, brother in England.
All right. So tell me about England, because that is super fun.
Yeah, and so I was young, and so I can tell you about like the monkey bars and
Yeah. 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 Are they on the other side there?
no.
Oh, okay.
And so it was a real interesting place, and so I was there during some of my formative years, and to this day, I don't like ice in anything because they didn't serve ice when we were there.
Right.
If you ordered a Coke
Yeah.
someplace, you had to ask for ice. They just didn't put it in there.
Right.
I attribute my love for tea. I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
But I've always been a tea person.
Okay.
So I love, I think maybe that. We stayed there long enough. I came back from England with a slight English accent.
That's fantastic.
No, it's not. So let me finish my story.
Oh, sorry. How old were you when you were there?
And so, let's see. Chris was born. That's my brother. So I was in England from about age 4 through about age 8. And so we come back, and I have a slight English accent. Now, I love my Tennessee family. They are country-ish. And so I remember coming back, and we went to go see them. My first cousins, my mom's sisters,
Hmm.
children, and they kept saying stuff like "milk," and I'm like, "Hey, mom, what's milk? That's milk, boy. Stop talking." Yeah, I'm like, "What?" And they ate. And they, like, we're having souse. What? I'm not having souse. I don't know.
No thanks.
No thanks. And so for Thanksgiving, I was used to turkey and dressing, and they had turkey and dressing, and then I kept on smelling something in the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's that horrible smell? It's chitlins. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I
Huh.
love my family, and that's just it's a cultural thing.
Right.
And so when I came back, I had a slight accent, and while I didn't quite understand them, they didn't quite understand me.
Right.
And I was in the minority, and so I got picked on a lot. Not only from, family, but even just, at school. It's like, you sound funny. And so I quickly lost my accent. I was very intentional about getting rid of that thing as quickly as I could.
And you lived in Florida, but I assume you guys traveled up to Tennessee on a regular
Yeah,
basis?
so all my mom's folks are in Tennessee, in Clarksville, Tennessee, and we call it going to the lane because there is a long, and it's not a road, it's a lane, and at the time, every house along the lane was owned by my mom, her sisters and brothers or first cousins. Everybody was family in that little cubby hole
Right.
down the lane. We eventually moved. Mom wanted to when Dad retired in '80. Dad wanted to live in Florida. That was home base. Man, he loves like fishing,
Hmm.
not in creeks or ponds. He's
In
in
the
in
ocean.
the ocean.
Yeah.
He likes to fish, and Mom wanted to retire close to family, and Mom prevailed.
When were you born?
1970
70.
October.
Okay, so you were
Yeah,
10 at
I
that
was
time.
10ish. Yeah.
Okay. How did you deal with, I mean, other than the accents, changing schools so often?
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. I'm an introvert.
Hmm.
And as you get older, you learn how to adjust and do what you have to do for interaction and social interaction. But at heart, I'm an introvert. And as a kid, I didn't want to learn how to be social. I just
Right.
wanted people to leave me alone.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to make new friends every 2 or 3 years. I'd have one or two good friends. It would take me 2 to 3 years to make one or two good friends,
Right.
and then we'd pick up and move.
That's rough.
Yeah, and I didn't enjoy that at all. I didn't deal. You asked me how did I deal with? I didn't deal with it well. Just angry and didn't. When you're a kid, I don't care if the military says we have to move.
Right.
I want to stay.
Tell them no.
Yeah, tell them. Yeah, but in the long run, it's really been beneficial, and it's change doesn't bother me as much as, in my opinion, just based on observation. A lot of times, change just doesn't bother me the way it bothers other folks.
Yeah.
It's change.
Yeah, you've
And
done
I've
it
done it
once.
all. Most of my life, every 2 or 3 years, and during my formative years, I'd make a change, and so I really am thankful for that. And then just seeing different places and interacting with different folks has been beneficial.
Yeah.
And although I didn't deal with it well, when I look back on it, I was just such a privilege to be able to do that. When we got to Tennessee, I spent half of a year in fourth grade. It's elementary. From there, middle school, high school in Clarksville.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the same school,
Yeah,
more
yeah.
or
So
less.
same middle school, same high school, which
Uh,
was phenomenal
I was
for
gonna
me.
say
I was
that's
like,
a nice
wow, this is
change.
yeah, yeah. It still took time, for me to transition, and because I remember when we first got to Tennessee, I'd been going to school on base. And so, the curriculum was different, the teaching style was different, and I just couldn't figure out why, in my mind, it seemed like things were moving slowly. But it was really teachers taking time to make sure you got it, and not
Oh,
negative with military, but they were like, this is it. Got it?
right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, this is the next concept. Got
It's
it?
just a different
Let's go.
mindset.
Yeah. So the transition was not difficult. Just it was a transition from military to civilian. But I love the schools I went to, made good friends, and was very thankful that I had the opportunity to stay in one place for a little while. I remember in middle school anyway, talking with some kids and making friends, and guys were talking about, yeah, this is my best friend. I've known him for 8 years, and I'm like, I haven't known anybody except for my
My
family.
mom
Yeah,
and my dad.
that's right. That's right. It's just different, but I was grateful that we didn't have to pick up and move again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys stay in the same house?
Same house my dad is in now. When they retired,
Hmm.
bought a house in Clarksville, and we lived in the same house since, and he's still there.
Okay. That's the same house.
Same house.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
neat to have
yeah,
those kind of roots.
yeah, yeah. My mom was born and raised in Clarksville, and so I had cousins, even though I didn't know them well.
Right.
I had family, at the middle school. My mom had a ton of friends, and she was a teacher. She didn't teach it where went to middle school. She taught at a school called Montgomery Central, and I was at New Providence Middle School. But anyway, my mom was a teacher, and so even though I didn't like it, teachers would say, "Oh, you're Virginia Hargrow's boy," and all. It came with some benefit. Every now and then, if I forgot my lunch money, or if I, something like that,
Right.
someone was like, "You okay? You're Virginia's boy, right?" "Yes, ma'am." Yeah. And so middle school was great. I enjoyed middle school, high school. I think in high school, in any high school, that's when kids get kind of mean,
Mm.
cliquish. I enjoyed high school. I've always been the kind of guy I just kind of roll with whatever's going on. But that's when I didn't realize that if I had a group of friends, that may mean I couldn't go hang out with another group of friends. That just never crossed my mind.
Right.
And so I had trouble navigating that. And I'm always cautious. I've been blessed, and I don't have a whole lot of bad experiences from any time in my life. Things have always been good, or if they weren't good, they were good soon. And,
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
In high school, you're talking about cliques.
yeah.
Which one were you in? And which one were you not in?
And so I ran with, so I had a bunch of friends, but I had two very good friends, Michael Edwards and Daryl Anderson, still talk today. And they were both military brats. And so we just kind of connected and then hung out. And so by default, and they were super athletic. And I played sports, but I wasn't the first guy to get picked for any athletic team. Now they might get me for the math team, or but not. So I ran track and did some other stuff. But so you asked me what kind of. So I hung out with the for lack of a better word, the jocks a lot,
Sure.
because the two guys I hung out with most were super athletes. And not to be political or anything, and so I hung out with the black crowd
Hmm.
because I'm black,
Yeah.
and for some reason we gravitated, and then I hung out probably as much with the, for lack of a better term, like the nerds.
Yep.
'Cause I've always, not always, I do well. I've done well in school, not because I'm smart, but because I work harder than folks that are smarter than me sometimes. And so that's where I hung out. Now I did not hang out with and there's nothing wrong with this, but the dudes with the big belt buckles and cowboy hats. That was not a clique that I seemed to fit well in. I didn't hang out with the super cool in crowd. That just wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't cool enough, I guess. I don't know what the
Well,
issue
and in
was.
Clarksville, Tennessee, especially in the 80s, I'm sure the cool crowd was really killing it.
Yeah, yeah. So those are the folks that I tend, and my parents, although we never really wanted for anything, you know, we weren't super rich or super well off, and so the clique of kids whose parents were upper echelon in my at that time,
Right.
with the upper echelon, that sort of thing, didn't hang out with those folks.
Okay. What was your experience of race between Florida and then Georgia and then back? Well, I guess you wouldn't remember that part, but Florida, England, and Tennessee.
Yeah, man. So I spent most of my time up until we moved to Tennessee. I spent most of my time on an army base, and so although race, I'm sure, I'm sure there were racial issues.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't seem to impact me a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's because I was naive and didn't realize what was going on, or maybe it's because it didn't impact me a whole lot. And so the first time I thought about race, as far as I can remember,
Yeah.
was in England. And although it was, and so we were not on the base. Maybe it wasn't England. Maybe it was Scotland. Because I think we were just kind of out traveling, seeing stuff. And a lady asked my mom if she could touch my hair.
Wow.
Because she'd never seen a black person before, and so she didn't know what my hair felt like. And oddly enough, my mom, not oddly, my mom just loved everybody.
Yeah.
If my mom had something bad to say about you, or if she was upset with you, you have done something. Guarantee, you've done something.
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, "Oh yeah, go ahead."
Wow.
And then afterward, I remember I said, I don't remember the words, but the line of questioning was, "What was that about?"
Right.
And so my mom was like, "And so she's never seen a black person before.
Congratulations.
You're an ambassador."
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so that was the first time I had that thought. But
Yeah.
then I realized when we got to Clarksville, that race plays a part in stuff that I just didn't think about, like choosing friends or
Right.
who you hang out with,
Yeah.
who gets invited to the party and who doesn't get invited to the party. On base, and there are problems, and so I didn't go hang out typically with the officers' kids because they were officers and my dad wasn't.
Right. Right. Right.
And so I'm not saying there weren't problems, but if you were enlisted, all the kids hung out,
Right.
black, white, whatever, and so I first started noticing that although we had classes together, that we didn't white kids often didn't hang out with black kids didn't often hang out with white kids, and so not so much in middle school, although it was in middle school, but very much so in high school.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed that, but again, I always just thought, that's your problem,
Right.
not mine.
Yeah.
As long as you don't try to make it my problem.
Right.
You make it my problem, then and then I've gotten into skirmishes
Oh.
because someone's called me out of my name,
Yeah.
and I just don't allow people to call me out of my at that time. Now I'm not gonna go fist a cuff because you're ignorant enough to call me out of my name. I'm not gonna stand there and let you do it. I'll walk away.
Right.
But at the time, if you called me with the N word,
Yeah.
then we had to fight. I mean,
That's just how it is.
that's just how
Yeah.
it was.
Well, I mean, you're a military kid too, so
Yeah,
it makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. That's intense.
And so the first time I heard that word
Yeah.
was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it being directed at you?
Yeah, yeah, it was.
And you'd never heard the word before, so that's always,
So at first I was like,
what's this nonsense word you're throwing at me?
and I was with some friends, and they were like, "You gonna let him call you that?" And I was like, "I don't know what he just called me."
Right. Wow.
And then when they explained it, I was like, "Well, I mean, it was over then."
Right.
I said, well," and I went home and talked to my parents. They're like, "Yeah, don't fight, but that's not appropriate. You let someone know." But the guy, because I didn't do anything the first time,
Right.
about a week later, he threw it out there.
Tried it again.
Yeah, and the results
It's a different result.
a different result. At
So
that
did you
point.
get in trouble with your? I mean, I'm sure there was probably some trouble with school or something like
Yeah,
that.
I got in trouble at school.
Yeah. How'd your folks take it?
They were fine with it.
Yeah.
My mom not so much. I mean, she understood, and she chastised me because she told me not to fight. She said, "Go tell somebody." My dad was like, "Did you leave him lying there?"
Did you win the fight?
Did you? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you walk away or did he walk away? That sort of thing. And my dad's always just been super supportive, not of violence, but just of
Sure.
standing up for yourself, whatever that takes.
Right.
Yeah. And so no, I didn't get in trouble at home.
There is a big difference between finishing a fight and starting a fight.
That's right.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And my response as a parent changes very very dramatically based on which end of that you were
That's
on.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, other than that, did you ever get in any trouble in high school? Any troublemaking moments?
So
Oh, I love a story that starts that way.
So, I'm not responding correctly to you because I never got in trouble for this.
Okay, you didn't get caught.
I didn't get caught, and I don't know that I've ever told anybody.
Well, it's just you and me. Don't worry about it.
So it's, I don't know. It's close to the end of the school year. I'm a sophomore, but I'm hanging out with a couple seniors. We were in chemistry class, and one of the guys says, "Hey, Hargrow, we're getting ready to go off campus and do X, Y, Z. Do you want to come with us?" So I'm a sophomore, and two seniors asked me, "Do you want to ditch school?"
Right.
So I felt like it was my obligation.
Absolutely. The answer is yes.
Yeah, and so after, about midway through chemistry class, one guy said, "Hey, can I go use the bathroom?" And he left, and the other guy looked at me, and I knew that we had to get out of the room somehow. And honestly, it was just the teacher was at the chalkboard doing something, and we were gone.
Just left?
Just left.
Wow.
Just left. And we went to a pool hall and gambled.
Whoa.
And I think back at it, I don't know why they let us in.
Yeah.
But they played pool, and I watched, and we hung out for a couple of hours and got back in time for me to get on the bus.
Let's consider it.
Yeah, and I intercepted a couple of messages that were directed to my parents about, Craig wasn't.
That's fantastic.
So I don't think they ever found out about.
That's awesome. That's great. That's not bad.
It's not
That's
bad.
not a big deal.
No.
Were you drinking?
No, I didn't drink at that point.
Just hung out at the
I
pool
was
hall.
just hanging out at the pool hall with two seniors. I just thought I was big stuff.
And you didn't get caught.
And I didn't get caught.
There are no victims here.
That's right.
It's a victimless crime. Oh my goodness. Tell me about family dynamics.
Okay. Dad has always been strong. There's no doubt who runs the house. Not a chauvinist. I never heard him say anything mean or negative to my mom. I mean, they discussed stuff and they disagreed, but
Mm-hmm.
always the gentleman. And so he's always been a leader, always protective. My mom is, I mean, almost stereotypical, just a nurturer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you got sick, you got hurt, you didn't go to my dad.
Right. That would have been silly.
Yeah, he was like, so run it off.
Yeah.
Do something. I mean, do something. My mom was that for us. Like I said before, man, just a super spirit, man. Just a good spirit. Loved everybody. The sibling dynamic was my sister, who's the oldest,
Mm-hmm.
was just super bossy from my perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
She was all, and this because half the time when my parents were gone or doing something, she was in charge.
Right.
And so super bossy. My youngest brother is a typical youngest sibling, and just kind of carefree. Everyone did stuff for him.
Got away with murder.
Got away with stuff that he gets away with. I remember getting spanked for. I'm like, he just where's the belt?
Yeah.
I'm looking for the belt right now. Yeah.
Did you want me to go get it for you, Dad?
That's
I don't mind.
That's right. That's right. And we fought. I fought with my sister often. My younger brother and I fought often. He fought with me more than I would fight with. But it was all just typical. We could fight, but you can't mess with my siblings.
Right.
And so half of the fights that I got in as a child was either because somebody was messing with my sister or somebody was messing with my brother. And so it was just that, we got along okay. We fought like cats and dogs at the house, but you couldn't mess with one of us.
Right.
That's just what.
Unified front.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and my sister's super smart. She went to West Point,
Whoa.
did great things and retired and makes more money than I do retired than I make now.
Yep.
Did well for herself. I studied hard and worked, and she did too. But she's
Right.
smart. I think smarter than me. My youngest brother is by far the most intelligent of all three of us. But
I was waiting for it.
he does what he loves,
Right.
and he's good at that. Like he manages a Great Escape,
Nice.
so he's
No
into
kidding.
all that. Yeah, it's in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and he loves that. He loves that, and he goes to conventions but when I think about how smart he is, my thought, I told him, I talked to him about it, I'm like, you could own a couple of stores instead
Right.
of working and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with, I mean, it's an honest job.
Yeah.
But I just always think to myself, he plays 3 or 4 instruments, and he can do anything he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so he's just always been, my sister and I joke, like, we sweat, we worked, and Chris, just everything just came and still comes naturally to him. And so we often sit around at Thanksgiving or Christmas and laugh and talk about stuff like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so that's his
It's a small
personality.
world.
Yeah.
I shop at the Great Escape on a pretty
Really?
regular basis. Not the one in Bowling Green, but
Yeah, so he used
the
to
one
work
in Nashville.
He used to work in one in Nashville.
Did
Is
he
that
really?
like close to Vanderbilt?
It used to be.
Yeah, that's where he used to work.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I cried when that store closed. Because I grew up going there with my dad.
Wow.
And when they shut it down to put in a pizza parlor,
Right.
because that's what we needed another of,
Another, yeah.
I got really emotional.
Wow.
And yeah, wow. But enough about me. That's super cool. I have to go meet your brother at some
You
point
do,
in time.
you
Just
do.
to we can share Craig stories.
No.
So you got in a bunch of fights growing up, apparently.
I did.
Pretty regular.
Pretty regular.
What was the worst injury that you sustained? Not somebody else. I won't ask you to incriminate yourself.
A black eye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was small. I'm still, I'm not a big
Right.
hulking guy, but I was real small then. I didn't. I grew 3 or 4, no, about 3 inches, and put on some weight after I got to college, and so I was always a run of a guy. And so if I had to go fist to cuff, I'd like to get the first punch.
Yes. So you graduated high school in 88?
88.
Yeah, it was 87, 88, somewhere in there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so graduated high school and went to college in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
I went to Morehouse College, which is an all black, all male institution. And man, it's one of the best things, best choices, decisions I've ever made in my life. I'm not going back to Atlanta
Yeah.
to live. 'Cause I didn't like it a whole lot, but I loved Morehouse
Yeah.
because that was the first time in my life that I was not in the minority.
Yeah.
I'd never been around other than church and family reunions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just never been around that many black folks. And then to go to a school of all African American, all male, it just really helped me value who I was more,
Absolutely.
and be more comfortable in my skin and not second guess some things. And so one of the best decisions I ever made.
I had no idea you were a Morehouse man.
I am a Morehouse man.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King Jr. went there?
Yeah, yeah.
Spike Lee?
Spike Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, a couple of mayors of Atlanta, and just a long list of folks. And at the time, it was who went there at the time, alumni was impressive. And I've finally gotten, not finally, I've gotten kind of away from being impressed by certain things as opposed to who they are.
Sure.
Whether they went to Morehouse or not.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, and so I love Morehouse, man. I'll tell you, and I didn't tell this to my parents until after I graduated from Morehouse. So the second week I'm at Morehouse, studying hard, man, because I received an academic scholarship, and as I said before, my parents, we were taken care of, but they weren't wealthy, and so if I lost my scholarship, I was coming home.
Right.
I was going to, nothing wrong with Austin P or MTSU, but I was going to go to a state school, and that's not what I wanted to do, just for me. And so, I studied a lot. And so, second week, I'm at the library, me and a couple other guys that I've met, and we're walking back from the library, which is probably half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from campus, because it was so Morehouse is right next to Spelman, which is the all black, all female, or majority black now, and female. And right up the road was Clark Atlanta University, which is a historically black college, and then Morris Brown was right. And so we shared a library, and so at the library, and that's why I had to walk back because it was kind of central to everybody. So I'm walking back from the library with a couple of my buddies, and a car pulls up next to me. Guy leans out of the window and says, "Oh, you're one of those Morehouse dudes. You must want to get shot." And I said, "No."
Good answer.
Good response. The car stops. The guy pulls his arm back in. As he opens the door, I catch a glimpse of a shiny gun. I don't know what kind it is, and one of my buddies, yelled gun, and we took off running. The guy never shot at us. Just being a butt. I can remember as I was running for what I thought running for my life, I could hear the guy laughing.
Was he white or black?
Black guy. and all the folks in his car were black. And so, 2 weeks in, I had a gun pulled out on me.
Yeah, no kidding. Welcome to Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. And I did not tell my parents until after I graduated because my mom would have been like, "That's enough. Time for you to." And I didn't want to come home. Didn't want to come home. And it was an accident. I was telling the story to someone else, like again at Thanksgiving or something, and I forgot and I didn't tell my parents. And they were like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
What happened?"
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, Atlanta was great, and I got into some other stuff. It was because I was stupid. That time I was doing what I was supposed to be
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
Some other stuff I got into trouble, but because I should have been in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice when that happens. So what did you study at Morehouse?
So I majored in business, concentrated in marketing. Never had any intent of, marketing or anything like that. Just wanted a business background. I thought marketing was kind of cool. Not always, at some point in high school, I decided I was going to be a corporate attorney.
Oh, okay.
And so I took business classes and economics in college, and so that's what I majored in at Morehouse. Did decently at Morehouse. Graduated '92. Kind of bounced around and did nothing for a couple of years. One of those just kind of finding myself situation, and then ended up at UT, University of Tennessee, College of Law. I originally wanted to go to University of Texas because they had their business law program was ranked 2 or 3 depending on what you looked at.
Sure.
In the nation, and applied there and got put on a waiting list. And my plan B was UT Knoxville, and as I was waiting to hear from Texas, got a letter from UT that not only accepted me but offered me money, and I said, "Well,
I guess that decision's made."
that decision has been made," and went to law school in Knoxville.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a lawyer.
Yeah. Still keep my license. So I do. I work for the state and do some child and family advocacy. But I keep my license current. Just anything can happen. I can walk in Monday and I'm like, "Yeah, we don't need you around here anymore. Go do something with yourself." So I keep my license current, but I don't practice anymore. I'm trying to think the last time I actually practiced was probably 4 or 5 years ago, because when I came to the state, I was part-time juvenile court magistrate, and then I had a law practice
Okay.
the rest of my time. It took me a couple of years to close all my cases.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I was just closing cases, and when I finally got the last one closed, I don't practice anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we haven't heard about any romance anywhere in this.
Okay. And so I'm gonna. So high school, I was kind of nerdy, small, and so I had what I would consider girlfriends at all through high school, dated, prom, all that stuff. But when I got to Atlanta, man, I just kind of lost my mind. Because it was, Spelman was right next to us,
Yeah.
which was all female school.
Right.
So Clark, which was right next to Spelman, had a 1-to-7 ratio, 1 male, 7 female,
Oh my goodness.
all black school.
Yeah.
Morris Brown at the time had a 1-to-14 ratio, 1 male, 14 all black school. And, I just, I'd never been around that many black girls before.
I love that you know the ratios.
Yeah, that
now,
was
20, 30 years later.
it was one of the reasons I went there. I'd like to say it was some, well thought out, mindful decision, and part of it was, but
Sure.
and I'll get back to romance.
Yeah.
So principal at Northwest High School, where I was Theodore White.
Okay.
Loved the guy. And he's just great guy, black guy. His son went to Morehouse and was at Morehouse while I was in high school. And so Mr. White pulled a couple of us African American black males together and said, hey, my son's going to be in town for whatever break it was. You guys have to sit down with him and talk with him. Well, he's the principal. And we liked him.
Right.
And so, because I hadn't heard of Morehouse prior to that. And so Jeremy, who was Mr. White's son, came and talked to us, and he was going through all the alumni and how it was transformative for his life. And I started leaning that way. Now, my sister went to West Point, so I'm thinking I'm going to West Point, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to waffle just a little bit, but I'm thinking, yeah, you can have all that stuff. But then I started, he was talking about all the great things that has happened to him and the transformation and all that. And so I'm giving it serious thought. Then he mentioned Spelman, which I never heard of.
Right.
And Clark, which I never heard of. And Morris Brown. And I was like, oh, really?
Huh. There aren't that many girls in the military.
And so that's kind of how I ended up at. So romance.
That's amazing.
So I met my wife at Spelman.
Okay.
Tyra was, went to Spelman, got there the same year I got to Morehouse. I met her my freshman year, but we didn't date or anything.
Yeah.
And, sophomore year, we hung out in the same crowd. Never any romance or anything like that. The end of junior year is when I think she and I both thought, what about Craig? Or what about Tyra?
Yeah.
And so I think it was the beginning of my senior year. I called her and said, hey, I know we've just been kind of hanging out, just having fun. But I wonder if you would consider.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, we dated and got married in 94, just before I started law school. And it was crazy how it happened. So, I probably shouldn't say anything. Tyra might be embarrassing. But anyway, I'm going to say it.
It's well past the statute of limitations.
So we're good.
You're fine.
We're good. So we lived together for a couple of years. Like right out of college, I stayed in Atlanta for a while and worked some odd stuff. But I knew I wanted to go to Texas for law school.
Right.
And so Tyra and I moved to Texas because I wanted to establish residency.
That's smart.
Yeah. And so we my mom and dad were not happy.
I was gonna ask.
Her mom and dad were not happy. But we moved to Texas. And Tyra actually went to UT, and I don't know if she finished her master's, but she started it there. I think she finished it at UT Knoxville.
Okay.
And so that's how I met Tyra at Morehouse. We were friends, and turned out that we were destined to be family, and so that's kind of how that worked out. I proposed to her in Texas, and so hadn't planned on. We always knew we were going to get, not always. When we moved in together in Texas, we'd say, we're going to go ahead and get married. We didn't have anything.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And one Sunday we go to this church, and man, the dude in the pulpit was preaching fire and brimstone. And he specifically was talking about, he hit all the sins.
Right.
But he talked about shacking up, having sex outside of marriage, all that. And when we got home, so at one point the guy is screaming at the top of his lungs about all these folks that are doing the stuff that Tyra and I was doing at the time.
Right.
You're going to hell. You're going to hell. So we get home and Tyra's like, we gotta get married. We don't want to start off law school, like this. We
One
want to
foot
get
in hell.
yeah, 1 foot in hell. and so we literally, man. Maybe it was shortly after we moved, but one weekend I called my dad Saturday. I said, "Hey, man, what you doing next weekend?" He was like, "Oh, nothing." I said, "You're gonna marry Tyra and I. We want to get
Nice.
married." He was like, the first thing, is she pregnant? Yeah, and she's not pregnant. The church was in Knoxville. So
Okay.
we had moved to Knoxville and I was getting ready to start law school.
Okay. Okay.
It was a week before I started law school, 2 weeks before I started law school. And then that next week we got married. And so only family, I mean immediate family, because we knew that wasn't going to go over well with folks that couldn't get there. My sister was at the time stationed in Cuba.
Oh my goodness. So your sister wasn't there.
No, she was there.
Oh, she made it.
She made
Oh,
it.
good.
She was hot. She was like, "How dare you give me a week notice?" But I was like, "But you're here, so."
Yeah. What's the?
And
You
so,
made it?
Yeah, what's the problem? Yeah. And so, yeah, literally 1 week I called my dad. Next week we got married at the church he pastors, and just friends. No,
Yeah.
I'm not friends, just family. And,
Yeah.
and we've been together we've been married for 24 years now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's big plans coming up soon.
Yeah, we're already talking. So August will be our 25th year anniversary, and so we're going to take some sort of trip. We're not sure where we're going to go just yet, but we're going to get away and hang out for a week or so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you started law school. That would have been in 96, 97,
No, I started law school in '94.
94. And you were there for 2 years. Is it 2
Three,
years?
3 years school. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then when you got out of that, do you have to? What was Tyra studying at this point? I didn't
So
ask.
at that point, she was doing public health. She got a master's in public health while I was in law school. She started a statistics minor, I think, at UT.
Okay.
Texas.
Texas.
And finished everything up with master in public health. And I think she got a minor in statistics in Tennessee, UT College, University.
Very cool. Okay. So and did she work in that? Did she go into public health?
So for a brief period of time, she worked for the state and did some sort of public health. She, I won't say audited, but she went to different programs that served the public, doing public health sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I never quite understood what she did.
She needed to know,
traveled.
not you.
Yeah. And so she did that for a while, but after we had Calfani, she stopped working outside of the home.
Right.
Yeah.
When was Calfani born?
2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when she stopped working, did you feel added pressure as the dad, or were you just overwhelmed with being a dad, or how was that experience for you, transitioning from young marrieds to parenthood?
So, yeah, it was different. I was gonna say I've never been wild. I've been wild, but when I graduated from law school, I started dialing back immediately.
You knew what the legal consequences were.
That I knew what the legal consequences. And so as far as that sort of thing, it wasn't a transition for me.
Right.
I was, but the added pressure, man, and to this day, I think my dad is a super dad.
Yeah. Wow.
Like he, of course I got more spankings than I should have, but outside of that, he just didn't get stuff wrong.
Right.
And so, and I'm blessed in that I've always had a good relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
And so when Calfani came along, I was like, wow, dude, you're my responsibility.
Yeah.
And so it was a huge transition. And I remember the first year after Calfani was born, and so I was in private practice, and the way I worked was I had billable hours. and so I'd bill X amount of hours, and that would affect pay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the first year that Calfani was born, I think I averaged almost 30 more hours per week. I
Wow.
was just like, I've got to
Yeah.
make this happen.
Yeah.
I got to make this happen. Uh, and just the whole pressure of having a child. And so that changed. That was a huge transition. I don't, you know, I realized that there was a balance that I had to strike.
Yeah.
Not that I had to, that I wanted to
Right.
strike. Parenthood has been and still is one of the greatest privileges and honors for me, man. It's just made me a better person. I mean,
Yep.
it should.
Yep. If it hasn't, you're not doing it right.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
I remember, first day we brought Calfani home. It was just, oh wow, because we was in the hospital for a little bit and
Yeah.
bring him home. Like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah. Where's the
Where's the
instruction
nurse?
manual?
Yeah. And he cried, half the night. We had to walk with him a lot to calm him.
Yeah.
So when Kamau came along, I was ready, man. I had, some green tea ready for the night.
Yep.
Yeah, man, Kamau was just opposite.
Yeah.
Man, he slept day one.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. I was like, we should have had you first,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, just total opposites. Total opposites. I'm gonna tell you about Kamau's birth.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Please do.
In my mind, super cool story. So Calfani took forever to come. I remember, just the whole, oh, it's time, and Tyra wanted to go to a birthing center, didn't want to go to a hospital, and all that stuff. Ended up going to a hospital, and making it to a hospital. Anyway, it was almost 24 hours of labor. And so the second time, I know what to expect.
Yep.
So she says, she wakes me up early in the morning. Like, Craig, it's time. I'm like, all right, I'll start getting this stuff together. I'm taking my time because I have about 24 hours.
Yeah. Get a couple naps.
Yeah.
Have a couple
Wake me up in
meals.
8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm getting stuff together, and Tyra's in the bathroom, and she says, I hear, Craig, come here. So I rushed back because it was a tone that I knew I needed to be there. So
Right.
I rushed back, and she's leaned over on the bathtub, and she says, I think he's coming. And I'm like, nah, you're good. Don't worry. you're fine. He's not coming. I said, I'm gonna go get the stuff together, and we're gonna get out of here quickly.
Right.
And she says, don't leave. So she's leaned over on the bathtub, kind of all, elbows up on her knees,
Yep.
and, legs partially apart.
Right.
And so I take a look, and I think I see a head.
If it's not a head, I don't know what it
I
is.
don't know what. And she was like, it's hurting. And I'm rushing toward her, and she bears down. And Kamau,
Wow.
at the house, just, and I didn't catch him. I prevented him from hitting the floor hard. but I'm, foot
Yeah.
and so he, like I said, I didn't catch him, but he didn't just flop.
Well, they're not
kept-
easy to hold when
Yeah,
they are
slippery.
fresh. They're slippery.
Yeah, the slippery. And so we're sitting there with this baby. And so when she first said it's time, I called my dad, said, hey, come get Calfani.
Yeah.
Because we're headed to the hospital.
Yeah.
We're headed to Nashville to the birthing center. And so, pick up Calfani, goes. And so this happens. The baby comes. And once we get called 911 and we know that help is on the way, I call my dad. I call home. My mom picks up, and I'm getting ready to tell her, what's going on, and she says, "Who's that crying in the background?" I was like, "That's why I called you, Mom."
It's funny you should
It's
ask.
funny you should ask. Our child is here. She's like, "Nah, that's not possible." I was like, "Yeah, it's possible." And so on Kamau's birth certificate, I am listed as the attending physician.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That's right.
So what was the amount of time from when she woke you up to when you didn't quite catch him?
I'd say about 45 minutes. It was
Oh my
less. It was quick. It was
goodness.
less than an hour. I was just kind of milling around, but it took my dad. They didn't live far from us. It took my dad maybe 10 minutes to come get him. Maybe 10, so it's 20 minutes. Yeah, I'd say it was less than 45 minutes, man.
I mean this in the most complimentary way possible. Your wife is a beast.
Yeah,
That is incredible.
yeah, yeah.
That's so
It was
cool.
incredible. And so when we called the 911, I told them what happened, and they were like, "So the baby's on the way?" I was like, "No, I told you what happened. The
Yeah.
baby's here.
Yeah.
You guys need to come do something. Cut a cord or do something." And it was strange, man. When they got there, they immediately separated Tyra and myself and started asking us questions. And I quickly realized they thought maybe I was abusive,
Oh, and it prevented her from going to the hospital.
and it prevented her from going to the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, crazy. But they were doing their job,
Yeah.
I was upset for a minute, and I thought, well, if it was my sister and somebody was abusing her, I'd want them to do exactly
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was strange when I realized what was going on. I was like, I know this is your job, man, but get my wife and son to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like right now.
Yeah. You can take them. We can keep talking.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
man. So when did you when were you called?
Ministry.
Yeah. When was your calling?
Let me think for a second. Probably around 2000. And let me tell you why I kind of hesitate. For a while, I was having auditory hallucinations. I thought I would be in one room watching TV or whatever, and I would hear Tyra call me. I'd say, "Tyra, what you want?" She's like, "I didn't call you." I'm like, "Stop playing. What do you want?" Because I'm not getting up again. And that happened for a while, man. And I never thought about, at the time, it wasn't in my mind a calling. It was me hearing stuff. And so after about 6 months of that, I'm negotiating a deal with this attorney who I didn't know from Adam. It was my first dealing with him professionally. I mean, I'd see him at the bar or whatever. Never really talked a whole lot. So we finished our deal, our negotiations, which I won, by the way. But anyway,
Of course.
finished our negotiations, and so he says, "Hey, Craig, I don't know you, but I want to tell you something. Are you open to listening?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, he's a good guy, honest man. I enjoyed working with him, and so yeah. And he said, "So I don't want you to get weirded out, but God told me to tell you that you need to stop running." And see, this guy, man, he doesn't know me,
Right.
and I thought, wow, okay. I didn't tell him what was going on, and I just said, "Well, I appreciate." He said, because I think he felt like I was kind of brushing him off, but I was weirded out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
didn't want to talk about it.
That's a lot to take on in a moment
Yeah.
from a stranger.
Yeah, and so I just told him, "Got it, not a problem." But at that moment, I thought to myself, that's what I know it's weird, but it's my experience. But that's what I was hearing. I was hearing my calling, but just never, because becoming a preacher was not in my realm of possibility. I was going to be a corporate attorney. I was going to make a ton of money. I was going to retire at about 45, 50. I was going to smoke big fat cigars and drink a bunch of expensive alcohol and
Yeah. Yeah.
and do all that stuff in excess. Yeah, that was my plan.
Yeah.
And preachers don't do that.
Yeah.
And so that just never crossed my mind. And then even after that, even after him telling me that, man, I struggled for another couple months
Mm-hmm.
with, man, this just can't be happening to me.
Right.
This is not the game plan. And stuff just went downhill. Tyra and I were not communicating well. I was still performing at work, but stuff just wasn't working well. I mean, all my plans just were going to naught. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Then I thought, oh, shoot.
Yep. I know what's going on.
Yeah,
I don't want to admit what's going on, but I know.
Yeah, and so I struggled for a while, but accepted my calling within a year of first hearing, "Hey Craig," thinking it was Tyra. Yeah, and from then I just preached. My dad licensed me. My dad ordained me, which is super cool. So his name is on my
really
stuff.
cool.
And I started pastoring 8 years ago, 2010.
Wow.
So I've been pastoring for about 8. Not about. I've been pastoring for almost 8 years. It'll be October. It'll be 8 years.
And you've been working for the state for 5, you said?
So I worked for DCS for 5 years. And I was attorney for DCS. The first 2 years, I was a trial attorney. The last 3 years, I managed other attorneys and then just handled some of the more complicated cases. I didn't try a whole lot of cases the last 3 years. Then I left and did the juvenile court magistrate thing and private practice, and then went back. And so I have a total of about 13 years with the state. In 2010, I remember it because I went to Guyana in 2010 on a mission trip. Found out while I was on the trip that the church chose me to be pastor, and I knew that when I came back from the trip, I'd be starting my new job with the state. And so everything happened in 2000. A lot of things happened in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot to wrap your brain around in another country.
Yeah. But I knew it was a possibility. I interviewed before I left and thought, if this is for me, great. If not, God will show me something else on down the road.
That's cool, though.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have several questions
Sure.
that I like to ask everybody. What scares you?
The possibility of failure. Man, I don't like not achieving. And I don't want that to come off the wrong way, man. And so failure is not me failing to get a promotion. In my mind, failure is, letting my wife down in some way that I could have prevented. Sometimes you just can't. Stuff happens. Not doing the best things for my children, making choices that were wrong and that I knew or should have known that was wrong. That's the sort of thing that just, if anything, keeps me up at night. And it's failing as a pastor, failing as a father, failing as a husband.
What do you regret?
I'm trying to think of something that honestly, oh, I know. I'm glad I thought about this.
Yes.
Yeah. So, it's from high school. So there was this young lady, a girl at the time, that asked me to do something for her. And I told her that I'll just... So I was supposed to go to a dance and, look pretty and stand beside this young lady. And I agreed to do it. And last minute I backed out. And that was just a horrible thing to do to somebody. And even today, I think I would just fall apart if I saw her.
Wow.
It was horrible. And so, of course, the day or week after, I had to go apologize. You know, her dad called, which was, you know, the appropriate thing to do. And my dad was like, "You're lucky he doesn't shoot you."
Wow.
Yeah,
Man.
and so had to go over it, and what made it so horrible was she wasn't mad at me. You know, she was like, "Oh, I understand." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Oh man, just spit on me or do something."
Yeah. Oh, makes it easier when they're angry.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So I
man.
think that's probably one of my greatest regrets. I'm a better person. I should have been a better person than that.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Who is God?
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh.
The short version.
The short version is creator of everything. You know, I think God is different. Who God is different for different people.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I mean, he is the creator of everything. And so that's my short answer. I don't know what you're.
No,
All right, that's my
There's-
short answer.
there's no right or wrong
Okay.
answer. It's just I'm just asking.
Yeah, creator of everything.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Craig, I am so blessed and honored that you would take the time to do this with me. Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. This was kind of fun.
Yeah, this is. Let's see what happens.
There was so much in there that I had a great time learning. Craig is such an incredible person, and it is an honor that my boys get to learn from him. Fun fact, this interview was actually one of the very first ones I recorded nearly a year ago. And as such, he and his wife took their anniversary trip. They ended up going to the Dominican Republic, and from the photos that they posted online, had an absolute blast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell other people about it. Share it directly with friends and family. You can share it through the website, butenoughAbout.me, or share it with them through your favorite podcasting app, whether it's Spotify or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. It's available on all of those. I'd love to hear that you shared it with somebody else. If you want to advertise the fact that you love this podcast, you can get a sticker. They are free. They're beautiful 4-inch vinyl stickers that work as bumper stickers. They're very resilient. They work on laptops and water bottles and anywhere else you might want to advertise our logo. It's bright yellow. Can't miss it. Please let me know. Send me an email, tyler@butenoughAbout.me, or through the socials, and I will get you a sticker for free. Just let me know that you want it. If you know someone who should be on this podcast, drop me a line. Help me make the connection to find more people to interview. I'm always looking for more folks. If you would like to see what Mr. Craig Hargrow looks like, you can swing by the website, www.butenoughAbout.me, where we keep all of the portraits that I make of each of the people that comes in and shares their story. You could also go check them out on Instagram, instagram.com/butenoughAboutMePodcast, or on Facebook at facebook.com/butenoughAboutMePodcast. You can also find other episodes and easy ways to share the show. Like, follow, subscribe, do all the things. Please, that helps us out enormously. The logo was designed by Mr. Casey Jones. You can see his work at imcaseyjones.com. And if you like the music, that is care of Mr. Jace Hackman. If you follow us on Instagram, then you might have seen the story from when I went whitewater rafting with Jace and a whole bunch of other people. And you can hear more of his work at jacehackman.com, Jase Hackman.com. You have an assignment sometime in the next 2 weeks. Go find somebody, buy them a cup of coffee or a glass of whiskey, and ask them to tell you their story. It is so worth it. My name is Tyler Andrews. But enough about me.